All right. We're going with resource. First, before we get started, as usual, I'd like to give a disclaimer. This video is going to be for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes only. Please understand everyone's individual circumstance or situation may be different. It's up to every individual competent person to please do his or homework or research regarding the information being discussed. This information is not to be construed as legal advice. In the event you feel you need to seek a competent professional, it is encouraged that you do so at one's own leisure. Dorsey's Resource Channel is not liable or responsible for any misuse of this information. These are simply my opinions on the topic matter. Please keep in mind it is up to every individual person. They are responsible for their own affairs. Once again, please do your homework. Now, to get right into the topic, I want to thank you guys for joining me. I'm your host, John Dorsey at Dorsey's Resource, and the topic of this video is going to be Q&A session along with must-watch documentaries and names to research for evidence. I decided to change the title because there's been updated information. As some of you all know, I put out a statement on YouTube. I wanted to let you guys know. I said I was going to try to come before you all more often. And since now YouTube, with the new features, they have the technology that allows content creators to send out like posts to let their subscribers, people that follow them, know when they're getting ready to put out a video maybe, or whatever's on their mind. So I just wanted to share a lot of information I felt is related to this particular topic. And as you all know, it's been a while, but I used to do this reoccurring topic quite a bit, where I would go over like documentaries. For example, I felt that were important. Many of you all, in case you hear me repeat some of the same names of documentaries, that's fine. This is also for newbies, new people. This is also to provide evidence and proof, because there's some things I want to go over I think that's very concerning. But this is in relation, one of the main documentaries I'm gonna go over is in relation to the journalist, the independent news contractor who was recently arrested. She was a contractor for InfoWars, Millie Weaver. By the way, I wanted to touch on that as well in the documentary as well, that she was working on, that was the same day that she was arrested or whatever. She was able to forcibly get into someone's hands that actually is like served like a whistleblower in the documentary, by the way. But there's been new reoccurring information. I do hear that she is out of jail already. Some people raised the GoFundMe account. I have been following this story before the weekend broke a little bit. I just didn't get around to basically gathering to work on a video, because I have to, take notes for you guys. But there's more information that's come out. I see Darren Jackson in the chat says, "You're the man." Appreciate you, Darren. Thank you for joining. I wanted to go over not only these documentaries that I consider are top on my list, but I wanted to share some other information I think will provide validity, because there's been a lot of rumors floating around this type of information, and the documentary that she worked on is oftentimes being accused of conspiracy theory. And I wanted to debunk that. I wanted to even go over some things that have happened in the past already to provide evidence. If you guys take the time, do the research, which you guys are awesome. Many of you all are absolutely amazing. There's content creators more phenomenal than myself, and I don't have a problem giving praise or credit where credit is due to those out there who've done investigative research on this particular topic and many others. But I want to make sure I bring to you all top quality information that you all can still look up and find for free online. Now, even despite many of the algorithm changes, the suppression that has taken place, what I've discovered just now a little bit, I was still able to find YouTube videos on these different names that I'm going to share with you all to look up and research. It's a reason I'm going over this, is to build you guys up. I want to see I have a super chat. Thank you, Steve Mayfield, for the super chat, jumping in real quick. Appreciate you guys all for joining. So once again, I wanted to go over these names on top of the documentaries that I'm going to share that I think are really important. If you haven't seen them already, if you've seen them already, you're familiar with them, kudos to you. Excellent. This will also be for newbies, for people that may be on the fence, that may be wondering, like, is this information true? Is there any validity? And you're seeing a live person. I'm not someone who's funded by George Soros. I'm not getting paid for this. I'm coming as an independent researcher, freelance researcher, content creator, sharing extensive research that I've done throughout the years, as well as to piggyback off of other people as well that are into this same type of information. So without further ado, the main documentary, I'm going to see if I can post it for you guys in the chat section. You want to look up this documentary. Number one, it's called Shadowgate. This is the documentary that Millie Weaver is working on, and I think it will open up a lot of people's eyes. And also, you guys are welcome to share this documentary. I recommend with your relatives, your family members. It's very important, very concerning as well when you find out and see what is in this particular documentary. By the way, so I'm going to go ahead and see if I can pull that up. By the way, I'm going to see if I can put the link in the chat. And there are several different web hosting platforms, by the way, that you can find this documentary, because, of course, ahead of time, many thought that YouTube already removed it a couple times. I even heard Facebook did as well. But you have other web hosting platforms that have posted the video. And one in particular, the one I'm going to share, it's already gotten 2 million views, which is quite a bit to have just come out within the last week. So there it is. Okay, I'm going to see if I can put the link in the chat section. Also check the description box after the video as well. I may also be able to link the video in there too. So if you guys can check that out, that's where you can go. One of the sites you can go find the video. Now I admit I have to finish watching it. I got to about 29 minutes in, but it's very powerful. I watched the trailer ahead of time, and I also have been following the story, the updates from the reporter InfoWars, Alex Jones. Many of you are already familiar with, by the way. And I want to tell you, I cross-reference a plethora of information, by the way. I follow many different content creators and independent news media that are out there. I still check out some of Luke Radowski's videos, by the way, Lisa Haven, Zero Hedge information, different independent news media that is going to, I feel like, report on, real facts and information. I also recommend looking up the Epoch Times, by the way, and going over this information. But this documentary, she was arrested recently, sometime last week, I believe, and she filmed part of it before they took her in. Now, I heard that recently, not too long ago, even right after from following it, her mother had recanted her statement, because this was, as some were saying, it was due to the documentary. But you can kind of, if you read between the lines, I think by her being a reporter for InfoWars, which was removed offline a couple years ago, this may have set off a red flag with some of the prosecutors or people in the area that she's at. So I wouldn't dismiss that working on the documentary could have had something to do with why they were trying to come at her, because when the police showed up at her house, the warrant was originally just in her husband's name. But when they had approached her, they said, yeah, get her as well. I guess they were instructed. They really kind of acted like they didn't know what they were doing at the time. So this is a violation of due process. They weren't explicitly clear, like they didn't have an affidavit under penalty of perjury, and they weren't giving her a reason why she was being arrested. Originally, they told her it was for burglary, but as new updated information has come out, that this had something to do with some type of domestic dispute that she had with her mother when her mother visited from California over a cell phone, because it was stated that because of the type of work that she was doing when her mother came to visit during the COVID-19, that I guess she was snooping around, and her, Millie and her husband, they got upset. This is just allegedly. You can go back, and there was some type of dispute because she saw a lot of information she wasn't really familiar with that looked like like a espionage or a spy movie. So I guess she took pictures and photos without permission, without getting permission from Millie to go over this material, because what her mother stated, she believed this may have been done because of the Shadowgate documentary, but that's still unclear. It's still speculation. Although I wouldn't put it past the government or these people in these deep state networks to do this and trying to report on information we all can't just say. But this was this documentary, by the way, was really an eye opener and very powerful. And some don't find it a coincidence, because if true, the information in this documentary is pretty damning to the bureaucracy. I recommend, this is one of the most powerful documentaries I would say out there ever that I watched. And there's been many other great ones. I think different documentaries focus on different information. So there's a plethora, and that's why I wanted this video to be about also must-watch documentaries and names to look up, because this documentary goes over illegal spying, as some had claimed that this is just a conspiracy theory in relation to the DNC convention, which I heard took place yesterday, Monday, the 17th, ironically, sometime. I heard NPR put out a statement where they tried to say that the Trump campaign is still spewing out a conspiracy theory that he was spied on, he was surveilled by the previous administration. And I want to say, I want to debunk that. They keep saying that that is false. I want to say, no, that is actually true. There is a lot of information that has come out. If you watch, there's this news agency called the Epoch Times. They actually have, I was surprised with YouTube being so liberal and censoring a lot. They actually have a commercial when the time the Google AdSense plays. A friend of mine told me he was already aware of the Epoch Times. I'm not subscribed to them yet, but I heard they're really high powered. And I even was able to find one of their maps online, by the way, I guess that had leaked out, where they had put together a map of all the people involved in the dossier file that they created on the Trump administration prior, and the surveillance and people that were involved dealing with the FBI, James Comey, as well as others, a list. And how it was ordered by the Obama administration. He had to know about it based on certain things. When you understand the military and how certain things work, this did actually take place. So NPR is putting out actually fake news. That is a lie. If you even look at fact check, but see, it is what they want to do. They want to put out fact check because they want to try to control the narrative. So if you have relatives, liberal relatives, you want to encourage them to also, if they still are going to be brainwashed and want to watch the liberal mainstream media, such as ABC, some people call it Antifa Broadcasting, Center, and et cetera, and CNN, Criminal News Network, if they still want to watch the MSNBC, as well as a lot of other news mainstream media that's not going to really report, I would say, on certain information. Now, when I watch it, I like some of the positive stories that they do, but when you can tell, put out a lot of propaganda, and they definitely would not, touch on things like this, or like the documentary Shadowgate, as well as others. But I find it ironic, in the past, they did report on the Jerry Sandusky situation at Penn State when that happened, but they're suppressing a lot of the other things that have gone on with the pedophile rings and stuff like that was happening. But fortunately, I see CBS did report on a lot of the Jeffrey Epstein situation, and Prince Andrew overseas, and Ghislaine Maxwell more recently, by the way. But I would like to see more of a fair, balanced perspective from the liberal controlled mainstream media, by the way, which a lot of the people that work at the news stations at a lower level, they can't control sometimes what they have to report on. When they're reading from a teleprompter, it's scripted. In many major cities, they're controlled or under the same, owned by some of the same underleak news sites, news agencies that are controlled by at the very top. So I'm going to jump in the chat real briefly to acknowledge you all. I see 7100 Warhawk says, hello, brother. Good to catch you. Appreciate you, Warhawk. Thank you for joining. 7100 Warhawk also says, a friend sent me this video. They've already taken it down from the link they sent me. Wow. Yes. You're going to get that. If you have friends or family members that are awoke, most likely they've sent that to you recently. But I would highly recommend everyone spread the word on this documentary. Check it out. I put the link in the chat where one of the web hosting platforms you can watch it at. You can also check it out at bitshoot.com, because we also want to get on other web hosting platforms. We don't want YouTube to have a monopoly, because we knew that this was coming. Many who've been researching this type of information, dealing with the cabal, was aware. So you want to get on other web hosting platforms. Also, Brighteon.com It's another web hosting platform. I believe they have a copy as well, or a link that will take you to band.video where you can watch it unfiltered. It's absolutely free, by the way. But if you can, I recommend try to support Millie. They did raise a lot of money for her legal defense. But, when you find out what happened, it was very egregious with the way leading up to her arrest. It was very murky, by the way. But it also it has something to do with the domestic dispute with her mother. So I want to say that, by the way, because some people were saying it was solely because of the documentary, but you can say that because she was an independent contractor for InfoWars, which has a target on their back, that if this is known in the area that she's at and people know who she is, it could have been politicized. So they could have furthered the people behind, and it was a secret indictment, by the way. So they just showed up, and her name was not on the information that the police had originally. They just, when she spoke with them, and the only thing that they could tell her, they were fumbling around. They didn't even. It's like they didn't even know. They were just told to come down there was over burglary charge, because she kept asking, "What is this for? I don't understand why I'm being arrested." As she was filming, and her son was out there, by the way. And I've saw a lot of the stories she's done. I've appreciated her work. Many others out there that's been on the front lines, that's been willing to ask questions and approach, different people to get real answers. Because some people out here, when it comes to politics, they don't like to talk about these things or like to debate. And I've seen her out there on the front line. So you want to keep Millie in your prayers, but also spread the word about this documentary, because I think that this had something to do as well by her being an independent contractor, which she was under a different bracket. AJ explained that, by the way. However, he still, tried to send, his support to her and spread the word. And he gave updates as I was following when this information first broke, sometime towards the end of last week, going up to now. There's still new developments, new updates. And one of the ladies, I'm not too familiar with, someone from the documentary actually contacted AJ, the radio talk show host, as many of you are already aware of, down in Texas. And she gave updates as well. And I want to let you guys know, a lot of the mainstream media lies and doesn't give you factual information about AJ and what he's done as an activist and the work that he's done with his independent news group as alternative media or independent news media down there. Kudos to the work he's doing. I think overall, I will admit, agree with everything that he says. Just to let you guys know, I just have to put it out there. And it's one of the reasons I do give a disclaimer, but that's why we all have the ability to practice independent thought. And I encourage everyone to make an assessment. But however, I commend him for his skill set, for putting himself on the front lines, because in the community of my people, we don't really have anyone out there doing that. Many of our great leaders many years ago were targeted, they were taken out, etc. And he does have a target on his back as well, from what he stated and things. So try to also support him financially if you can. If you are aware of who I'm talking about, he's really stuck his neck out there for us, because these globalists / ruling class elite, aka Illuminati, they do not have our best interest at heart. Best believe that. And that's why I'm going over this information. I want at least you guys really check out that documentary, spread the word if you can. So once again, without further ado, I did say that I was going to go over other documentaries and names, but just to give you guys a heads up, I have a little bit more time before I have to head in to the plantation. So this is also Q&A. So just to let you guys know, if you guys have any questions, feel free, or any statements, comments, or concerns, don't hesitate. Jump right in the chat. In case you're wondering, I'm your host, John Dorsey. You're watching Dorsey's Resource. And the topic of this video that we're going over is Q&A, along with must-watch documentaries and names to research for evidence. And right now, I'm just going over a little bit of the arrest of independent news media reporter Millie Weaver, who was an independent contractor for InfoWars. And she just released a documentary called Shadowgate, which I highly recommend. I posted the link in the chat and the description section. So you want to make sure you bookmark that to your computer, whatever you're on, laptop, desktop. Make sure you share that, get that out. That's the most important documentary I'm going to go over. There's a few others I'm going to go over. Then I'm also going to go over some names, by the way. I see some more people joining the chat. Moneyboy Film says, "What's good, family?" Moneyboy in the building, fam. Thank you for joining, Moneyboy. Appreciate you for joining. Sonya Johnson says, "Hey, Dorsey. Appreciate you, Sonya. Thank you for joining." Once again, also, guys, don't forget to hit the thumbs up, the like button. It's much appreciated, by the way. Now, getting back to the documentary, by the way, going over some other documentaries other than Shadowgate. If you guys can, please look up this documentary. It's called Endgame: Blueprint for Global Enslavement. And you still can find free versions on YouTube, by the way. And if you can, you want to find a software to try to download these videos. What I researched and was able to do, if you are aware, there is a lot of tutorial videos on YouTube that can teach you, show you how to do different things. In case you guys don't know, you just have to have a creative mind. This is what I myself have done when I was stuck or tried to figure out certain things to, have the information archived in case they remove some of these documentaries I'm going over. And they already have. There's been people who's had in the past, maybe not for everything because they have to review it. But there are people that know. And I heard this documentary I'm going over has been seen by famous people too, by the way. It's called Endgame: Blueprint for Global Enslavement. It came out some years ago, and it relates to the Bilderberg Group. For those out there that don't believe it is a ruling class elite, no, I'm here to debunk that. That is not true. What some refer to as the Illuminati, the ruling class, the globalists. It is a global syndicate, criminal syndicate. By the way, they are real, and this documentary helps expose that, and also talked about the law that some of the local politicians were violating when they were summoned to this meeting secretly. There was some type of act called the Logan Act or something, I don't remember, and there was actually a couple of politicians that was discovered they were fined for violating this act, which was like $200,000. Some type of rule of colluding in secret with this elite, this cabal group, by the way, which has a reoccurring meeting generally every year. I think I heard this year when I looked up, they canceled it because of COVID. But I think best believe behind the scenes with all the money, the technology that they have, they pretty much they set world policies, different agendas, and they have their hands in a lot of different things, from religion to major corporations to the agricultural industry to the medical industry. They control many large industries, and this group does meet in secret. And there's other factions as well, such as the Trilateral Commission, Council on Foreign Relations. The list goes on, by the way. So check out, it's called Endgame: Blueprint for Global Enslavement. If you guys haven't seen it, AJ, he produced it years ago. It's a must watch in your collection. And when you watch these documentaries, they will provide evidence and help you connect the dots for those out there that accuse this information of being conspiracy theory, which is not, because NPR put out a statement, I noticed, and tried to say that that it's a conspiracy theory that Trump said his campaign was surveilled, that he was spied on. No, that is not true. NPR is fabricating, putting out false information. And also, on a side note, look up the Epoch Times. They have a YouTube advertisement, commercials, once again, that provide concise evidence of the deep state. You can subscribe to them. I was surprised. I had a friend of mine that actually knew about them and told me he was working on obtaining a subscription from them, by the way. The surveillance is committed by the previous administration, I want to say on record, is not a conspiracy theory. So NPR put out a statement in relation to something they were discussing about the DNC. I don't remember what that was specifically, but the part I do remember, they were trying to say that Trump claims he was spied on during his up to leading to his running for presidency, and that is not true. They were saying that that's not true. However, if you do the research, the Epoch Times will also validate. If you look up the research, and they've gone over in some of the, even the short advertisements, it's been like several minutes, by the way, and they have maps, one map in particular that I found, by the way, where they were discussing this and giving a breakdown of the evidence behind the memo, the FISA memo, and how all of this took place illegally and criminally, by the way. And they put together basically like a paper trail. They did a lot of research, which is phenomenal, by the way. So I'm here to tell you, folks, it doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum you are on, but that is false information. And I know this for absolute fact. that Trump's campaign was spied on. He was surveilled, by the way, and multiple people were spied on, by the way. It wasn't just Trump's campaign, but this was done by the previous administration. It was others. I found out even Ted Cruz was, General Flynn, a list of others, by the way. The liberal controlled mainstream media has been continually fabricating false information, false talking points, accusing everything they disagree with politically as being a conspiracy theory, by the way. So keep that in mind. We're talking about, of course, the obvious, CNN, MSNBC, the list goes on, NPR, etc. So once again, the mainstream media has been continually fabricating false talking points, accusing everything they disagree with politically as being a conspiracy theory. So you have to question, and I'm here to confirm that if this is the case, then that everything is a conspiracy theory, then you have to ask the question, why would major social media sites such as Facebook, Twitter, YouTube be going to great lengths to remove videos like the one with the doctors who have been coming out as whistleblowers, many numerous ones, not just that major one recently with the doctors with white coats where they had a press conference. Why are they removing these videos at a more abrupt rate very quickly and labeling them as harmful content without due process, for example, or evidence, claiming due to COVID-19 that their review staff cannot review the video when you try to contest or challenge the legality on them? By the way, this is obviously fraudulent. And I went over in the past already how these big tech companies are violating antitrust laws. They're committing very egregious acts. They registered as public utilities, which meant many years ago, by the way, that when you had a land telephone line, water, sewage, electricity, they could not discriminate against anyone, no matter who you were. Like if you had landline telephone, just because of your political views. You have freedom of speech, by the way. What also some of these major mainstream media sites are doing is smaller independent media sites. They're committing these other acts of misconduct where they're lobbying to try to have them shut down. This is called torturous interference when they're doing acts such as this, torturous interference dealing with in the legal realm when they go after mom and pop or smaller independent news sites to try to discredit them and create false information. And they do this a lot with Alex Jones and InfoWars. They make up a lot of false information. And this is torturous interference criminally. This is how they're violating. These are also discriminatory practices, by the way, because everyone's freedom of speech is supposed to be protected. Even if someone disagrees, that's your right, your freedom to express, as long as you're not inciting, I think, violence or other things. But it's your right to say certain things if people do not agree. But because of these mainstream media sites are liberal control, as well as big tech companies such as Facebook, Apple, Twitter, etc., YouTube, which is controlled, and Google, owned by Google, which their parent company is Alphabet. Even if Viacom is still involved, they're like two heads of the same snake. They're like all involved with this massive censorship. So just be aware of that. In case you guys are joining, by the way, I am going over a list. I'm going to get to the other documentaries as well. I want to thank you guys for joining Dorsey's Resource. I am your host, John Dorsey. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, now is the best time to reach me. Don't hesitate. Feel free to jump in the chat. So this is also Q&A. Also, like this video if you can. I posted the link for the main documentary, Shadowgate. I recommend you guys please check out. You want to bookmark that. It's already been seen 2 million times on that one particular web hosting platform. I believe they also have it on BitChute and Brighteon.com as well. I also saw Officer Tatum did a story on it, by the way, and he posted it on his website, which linked to band.video. So kudos to the work he's doing over there, by the way, just so you guys know. So the other documentaries I'm going to go over is, I went over Endgame. Okay, the other one, this is a reoccurring one I mentioned many times in the past, and you still can't find it on YouTube. You can watch it for free. Sometimes people will put it under a different name, but it's called The Money Masters. It's a very long documentary, so you may have to watch it in segments. It's called The Money Masters. It was put out, one of the narrators, a guy named Bill Steele, by the way. He put out another document out. Well, he was in another documentary some years ago called Secret of Oz, I believe, that was related to some of the same type of information. But I think Money Masters goes very in depth and it complements this information. And the reason I go over this documentary, just so you guys know, I do have some notes here with me, is a lot of you all out there won't understand the secured party creditor or information or status correction or being a foreign national process unless you understand the relation to the banking system's financial suppression, or why some of those negotiable instruments or discharges weren't going through, or why some of the TDA accounts are being blocked. Very similarly to how this censorship happens, like with the documentaries and online, this also happens with those that study the redemption information too. So what I'm doing is building you up. A lot of these documentaries will provide you the evidence, the right type of financial literacy and history behind what actually occurred, and will help you understand what's going on today, why there's a lot of financial suppression and why they make it difficult in some instances for those who have only got to a certain level or operate in a certain way to get those negotiable instruments set off or to successfully discharge them because they control the central banks. But this documentary, I don't want to spoil it for you all. It goes into some of this history behind financial suppression, wars, blackmail, how they control real estate, dealing with trust, like trustees, dealing with like private banking trust, etc. There's another important, powerful documentary that's called Monopoly Man. I also found out it looks like the name, it may have been under a different name, stated The Phenomenon, The Lost Archives, aka Monopoly Man. It's called, look up, if you research on YouTube, type in Phenomenon, The Lost Archives, and I put aka Monopoly Man. You type that in the search engine, you should find the correct documentary. So it is still online. I saw there was like a paid version, but there looks like there's some free versions. Some of them you might have to watch where they're chopped up, by the way, that has like a part 1, 2, 3, etc. It's called Phenomenon, The Lost Archives, aka Monopoly Man. So you want to look that up as well. It complements Money Masters. My cousin told me many years ago, he said a lot of people, when we came into this information, woke up off of that documentary. So it was an eye opener, by the way. So I'm gonna see if there's any other documentaries I had listed. There's quite a bit I've gone over in the past, but those were the main. I didn't want to overwhelm you guys either. So just looking here, seeing, okay. Oh, on a side note too, by the way, if you guys can, once again, you want to go to band.video to watch that particular documentary, by the way. It's called band.video. I posted the link in the chat. Also, there's another web hosting platform called www.brighteon.com, spelled B as in boy, R as in right, I as in Icarus, G as in girl, H as in help, T as in Tom, E as in Edward, O as in Oscar, N as in Nancy.com, brighteon.com. And you want to bookmark that. That's another place that is censorship free. They're not like YouTube. By the way, I recommend other content creators have a backup in case you are removed. This is a backup for you all, so your subscribers, followers can still find you, especially if you already have a large following. And there's many that do, that have also gotten websites. It'll complement your website and also work as a backup. These are other web hosting platforms that are censorship free. I would say that definitely are not as egregious like YouTube when it comes to the censorship and how YouTube is been violating all these laws. There's another one called www.bitshoot.com. That's spelled B as in boy, I as in Icarus, T as in Tom, C as in cup, H as in help, U as in universe, T as in Tina, E as in Edward.com, bitshoot.com. You can also find that documentary on there as well. From what I understand, BitChute has a lot A lot of content creators that have already been censored or banned from YouTube also have content over there as well. There's another one that I'm on called minds.com as well that may be like a secondary backup site. So it's good to have like backups for backups, especially if you have a big following, a very large brand, millions of subscribers. Just in case something happens over here, YouTube, you have a backup to go find at these other web hosting platforms, by the way. So I recommend that. So YouTube, because of their egregious acts, even though they're seeing their video platforms is seen by millions all over the world, these other web hosting platforms are growing largely. And because what Google has been doing, they have been buying up a lot of the smaller web hosting platforms to try to like crush their competition. They had these hearings not too long ago about the antitrust laws that where Jeff Bezos was at, Mark Zuckerberg, Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, and Sundar Pichai, the one of the CEOs of Google, by the way. One of the ones CEOs that was missing was Microsoft Bill Gates. He may have spoken before, I'm not really sure as well, because this comes in relation to the antitrust laws. So this is why I'm going over this, because that was created supposed to help protect small businesses, to keep big, large, super conglomerate corporations from their egregious activities, from buying up all their competitors, or whatever. Remember, competition keeps prices cheap when you have competitors, just like with cell phones. Well, you have Verizon, Sprint, Metro PCS, which is T-Mobile, got purchased by T-Mobile, Cricket, AT&T, other companies. Competition helps keep the prices lower, by the way. When you have a monopoly, like many years ago, one of the things where they already had came in and broke Microsoft up. Part of it, I heard they had some hearings. I can't remember if this was back in the late 90s going into the early 2000s, because they used to sell like their Windows or Microsoft Office. People felt like the price was too high because they have a big, large monopoly. Now, a true story, by the way, this ties in with the antitrust laws. When you start to understand this, and the reason I've gone over this in the past, you can look up on your own. Kudos to Ed O'Bannon, by the way, that won his the antitrust lawsuit against the NCAA. I've always felt that NCAA players should be paid, by the way, on a side note, because if these colleges are making billions, millions, and billions of dollars off these athletes, they deserve something, out of it. So this is all part of that. But very recently, just to give you guys a true story, I was at a gaming store that wasn't GameStop, but maybe like another smaller competitor. And the individual there, the clerk that I was speaking with at the time, he's a very cool guy, was explaining to me about they might be going out of business in a couple years or whatever, because what's happening, he explained to me, there was a gaming controller that they used to be able to sell through Microsoft. But what Microsoft started doing was they started having the gaming controller where you can only buy it like through their website now. So you couldn't buy it through the smaller retailer anymore, and things like that was going to put them out of business. I also was told recently, last night, while I was at work, I get intel from someone I won't say, shared with me, where I talk about video games, something I've done on the side. And they were a younger person, were explaining to me, and I had already saw this, that there's some type of lawsuit with Fortnite, by the way, with going on with Apple and I think Google, by the way, because somehow they bypassed, some of the things that what Google and Apple offer through their stores, and have you go straight through them, the manufacturers of people in control of the game. So I heard not too long ago that Apple and Google had banned them from their platform, so they had filed suit. So they're in some type of, just so that gives you an example, but they're more so on a higher level. That's the importance of having antitrust laws, to not allow these big, large, super conglomerate corporations to have just such a large monopoly. And this is leading to egregious forms of censorship, where they can make up things on people and lie and just remove you. And when you've worked really hard and built up a large following of subscribers, by the way. So I'm going to jump in the chat very briefly. King Oso 1990 says, thanks, bro. Appreciate you. 71 Warhawk says, also check out Google videos. Okay. Excellent. I didn't know. I thought they were merged with YouTube some years ago. by the way. Galactic Soul says, evening, Dorsey. Good to see you. Appreciate you, Galactic Soul. Thank you for joining. By the way. Send it low says, peace to you, Chris. Thank you for joining. Welcome. Appreciate you guys. So now I'm about to get into some of the names, by the way, after I've gone over the documentary Shadowgate. So if you guys can, please make sure you check out Shadowgate. It's on band.video as well as the other platforms, the web hosting platforms I just went over, by the way. You want to also, if you can, in your spare time, create a username, password, get on those platforms as well. They have a plethora of content creators. Some of the content creators that you may be wondering where they disappeared to, in case YouTube banned them some years ago, they've already moved on to other platforms too, by the way. Some people that had really big followings. So, you know, go over to those platforms, but I'm just giving you another angle. You can also watch that documentary that was banned by the doctors that they put out not too long ago on these platforms that I'm mentioning, by the way. They should still have them up. You might have to scroll back further back in the archives, but band.video should have it where you won't have to scroll back that far. You'll just like scroll down and check it out, by the way, because Facebook and Twitter, it shows you if they're really telling the truth, and they have this fact check and stuff, you know, and they're openly lying. Why are they removing videos completely and utilizing all of this censorship? You know, you have to really question, you know, what you're being told, by the way. So going over the names, getting into the names now, from the few documentaries that I mentioned, by the way. See, okay. If you can, these names I'm going to go over just to give you guys a heads up. You can still look these names up. What I did before I went live, I take notes for you guys. I prepared. I looked up myself on YouTube to see if some of these people are still around. But just to give you guys a heads up, as I recommended before, you want to see if you can find a software. YouTube does have tutorial videos, by the way. If you're using Google Chrome, by the way, and it may work for different web browsers. There's different strategies. You want to, you can even buy, they even have screen capture software, but some of them you might be able to get for free. By the way, you just have to look it up online. You want to see if you can archive these documentaries, download them, make sure you bookmark them, this information that I'm going over. Also, the names of these people, the reason why I'm going over the names, they will also help confirm some of the things that took place and happened many years ago. That it's not a coincidence that some of the things that are occurring now, we're seeing a rehash of the same thing that happened many years ago. This is a repeat, by the way. So just to give you guys a heads up, there is a video. There's a short video. It's a tutorial. If you're using Google Chrome, there's a way you can link to download videos if you had trouble, because there was one site called n.savenet or something like that that said they had to stop operating in the US. I didn't even know they were based overseas or whatever. They're claiming because of copyright infringement, but you also have laws to back up under fair use too, by the way. I just don't remember the one particular law offhand. So if you can, to bypass the censorship, is get this, find out the softwares that you need to try to download these videos. You want to archive them, because a lot of times down the road, like if YouTube finds out something goes viral and it's waking a lot of people up, because they're trying to keep people brainwashed and programmed. Like many of the other mainstream media sites, you will have a backup. And when you share this with friends and loved ones, you can put it on a backup thumb drive. You can learn how to put it on a DVD. They have tutorials for that, by the way. Just showing you that you have a creative mind. That's how I think. Some of the things, the strategies that I've done, utilized in the past, as well as other people that I know have utilized these same strategies, many other people. But you have to think creatively. So to give you a heads up, one of the most important names I'm about to go over, I highly recommend looking up. Please look up Ted Gunderson. And I looked some of these people up before I went live. Look up who he was. Now, some of you all might already know, by the way, but please look up Ted Gunderson, who he was, by the way. Let me see if I can get some more light here. Okay. Please look up Ted Gunderson, by the way. Look up a lot of his videos. Some of them, like one was like 2 hours long where he was wearing a red shirt. That's really powerful. If you look up, you will understand some of the things that's happening today, because what's happening is this information, even in years past, when we didn't have the internet as available like we do now, when people were still using VHS tapes, by the way. There's information that these people were like activists, whistleblowers that spoke at different conferences, and this is how they would get the information out. But there's some people out there that still remember these people, but this will help provide validity and evidence in case you're wondering or you're questioning, is this information real or true? As oftentimes it's accused of being conspiracy theory. Please check out Ted Gunderson. He was a former FBI agent. I don't want to spoil it for you guys. He was high level at one time too, by the way, where he admitted he met Ronald Reagan before, but he admitted he even worked on the COINTELPRO that took down the Black Panthers, and he apologized for it years later once he found out more information with how he was being used. But he also talks about stuff dealing with child trafficking with children. He was one of the pioneers that helped investigate it, that helped expose this type of information. So if you can, please look up Ted Gunderson. Rest in peace to him. Kudos to the awesome work that he did to uncover these very evil people. And he didn't have a lot of help at the time because they didn't have the internet like today, but they still tried to use other methods to wake people up. But see, what's also happening is big tech, the big tech giants. This is one of the reasons, because people are more connected and they've been able to connect with thousands, if not millions of people to spread the information about the cabal, the evil works that are happening. He came during a time period where he didn't have access to as much technology like we have now. Up until the time, more or less, a lot of people didn't know who he was, but he had worked on some cases after he retired to help some people out. And I don't want to spoil it for you all, but one of them was dealing with a kid who went missing. He investigated. There was also some women who were part of this project, Monarch, just like if you know about the NSA program, which I don't want to spoil it for you guys. They talk about in the Spygate documentary called Operation Prism, by the way, is what that NSA spy program was about. And they do have surveillance, and they admitted, even locally where I'm at some years ago, by the way, on one of our local news stations, is called Fox 2 Detroit or whatever. I was at the car shop at the time. This was some years ago. And you know how you're waiting in the lobby area and they have the television on, and they were playing the local news. And I saw where they ran a story about the NSA program dealing with, I guess, around the time after Eric Snowden had come out with the information, by the way. And they said it was unconstitutional and illegal. This was on the local media, which is still mainstream. They admitted that this was unconstitutional, illegal. So this is facts. I'm just sharing with you guys. This is what I saw. So I'm not hiding behind a fake account. I'm not a troll. You're seeing an actual person share with you real legitimate information from an actual experience that I had in reality, by the way, because you have a such thing as called conspiracy fact and conspiracy reality. Realities in real time, like when I'm speaking and you're in this very moment at this very point in time, this time-space continuum that we're in. So you have factors like things that have already happened already. That's why I'm going over the names, why I'm going over the documentaries, because these are things, egregious activities that have already taken place. That is an absolute fact. Even if you read in between the lines, when the FBI had put out a report a year or two ago about something, and they admitted that they said that some conspiracy theories are actually true or have come to pass. But you have to read in between the line. I said, yep, that's it right there. The one part they wanted to admit, because I hear there's a big shakeup going on at the top. There's like mutiny that's been happening within our government at different levels of certain government departments, government offices. So just know, so you understand the reason why I'm going over these names and people to look up is they acted as whistleblowers. Many of these people put their lives on the line. They risk their lives to share this information as well. So if you can, you do have the money to support them, I recommend these documentaries. Do that to the best of your ability if you can. But I'm going over, you can watch that documentary for free called Shadowgate, but right now I'm going over important names to look up. Ted Gunderson, he passed away some years ago, but look up as many of his YouTube videos as you can. It will give you an understanding, as I found out, that when the Pizzagate thing came out some years ago, that there was a lot of independent content creators and researchers who looked up that information, and this complements that information because this is something that already took place many years ago, by the way, and this is by professional people. He did work at one time for the Federal Bureau of Investigation, which they also, to keep it short, they refer to as the Bureau, by the way, when you're doing investigative research, investigative journalism. By the way, some of the other names, please look up Bryce Taylor. Look up Bryce Taylor. You want to look her videos up. She's still on YouTube. What happened with her? You want to look up Kathy O'Brien, by the way. You please want to look up Kathy O'Brien. Bryce Taylor and Kathy O'Brien. They were part of this Project Monarch, by the way. This is information, things that have already happened, by the way, many years ago. They even linked up with Ted Gunderson at one point. These people were whistleblowers. Some of them have even been in other documentaries as well to document this information dealing with the child sex trafficking rings, by the way. So please look up this information. Also, you want to check out Noreen Gosh regarding the disappearance of her son, Johnny Gosh. Look that up. This actually aired on America's Most Wanted some years ago. The story they did, the Nancy Grace Show. This is a show which I used to watch with my mother many years ago when I was younger, by the way. That show, Nancy Grace would go over like the disappearance of children. She even covered the R. Kelly situation with some of the young ladies as well. You want to look up that information. Some of it might still be on YouTube. I saw it one time. I don't know if it still is, but look up the disappearance of Johnny Gosh and look up the story, the interview that his mother, Noreen Gosh, did. You want to look up her interview, by the way. It's very important. You know, it was an eye opener, by the way. So in case you're wondering, I'm going to see if I can put the names in the chat, by the way. I'm going to see if I can copy and paste so you guys can see. Oh, it went over. Okay, I went over that. Okay, I can delete some of the information. I'm going to put some of the names in the chat so you guys can see. And okay, just bear with me. So, okay. So look up the names of these people. I just put them in the chat. Go on YouTube and also download as many of their videos as possible. Even get a backup thumb drive. I know there's some private and some other investigators, some freelance journalists out there, and it will complement the information that you've heard about Pizzagate. There's a lot of people that try to say that that's a conspiracy theory, that that's not true, that didn't happen. That is factual, and this is how they connected the pieces. And even some people I heard pled guilty dealing with that Nexium cult, which was connected from Hollywood to New York, by the way. There was a connection. I saw even our local news station, WXYZ Channel 7, did do a story about the actor Allison Mack. I didn't know who she was, that she had played in the Smallville show, I guess based on Superman, you know, when he was younger. She was part of that. And there was a lady at the top of that group that actually pled guilty, by the way. But notice the mainstream media, MSNBC, they didn't cover it like the Jerry Sandusky thing, because they don't want you to know right after Trump got elected, got nominated, they've been doing a lot of child sex trafficking busts too, by the way. He's aware that there's been sting operations going on, but this information will provide the validity in case you guys are wondering, for those who are not in the know, the names of these people that I'm going over and why it's important, by the way. This will provide substantial evidence. And guys, if you can, don't forget, in case you're watching, to hit the thumbs up button. Also subscribe to me. Don't forget to hit the notification bell. Subscribe to Dorsey's Resource, at Dorsey's Resource. You can also follow me on Twitter at Dorsey's Resource. I'm on Facebook at Dorsey's Resource as well. I'm working on getting maybe on some of those other web hosting platforms that I went over as well. I am on minds.com at Dorsey's Resource. I don't know if mine's is as big as band.video or Brighteon.com or BitChute. They're pretty large, by the way. So this is why I'm going over, once again, this information. So I went over to look up Ted Gunderson, Bryce Taylor, Kathy O'Brien, and I went over Noreen Gosh regarding the disappearance. And at one time, many years ago, they used to put the children who disappeared, they used to put them on the back of milk cartons, by the way, and other flyers, in case you guys are unaware, by the way. I thought I could get more light in here. Closer. Okay. Okay, thank you guys for bearing with me. Seems like I was having some lighting issues. You know, in case I'm gonna figure that out for next time, by the way. But I'm going over once again must-watch documentaries and important names to look up, that this will complement the information I've gone over prior and provide validity and evidence for those out there who think that this information is conspiracy theory. I'm here to tell you, no, that's not true. When you investigate and watch those documentaries, you look these names up, I think if you're a genuine person, your whole outlook will definitely change. I know some of you all may not have never heard of these people before, but I'm going to go over the story. There's some more information, by the way. There was also an attorney who worked the story that's in relation to one of the Noreen Gosh and Ted Gunderson, which he was aware dealing with the Franklin cover-up. They did a movie some years ago, which this can act as another documentary I forgot all about, called Conspiracy of Silence. By the way, you want to look up Conspiracy of Silence. It was a banned actual documentary. It was supposed to air on the Discovery Channel some years ago. Right at the last minute, like the day or night before it was supposed to air, somebody had bought up all the rights to the documentary that didn't allow it to air. But fortunately, Ted Gunderson got a hold of one of the tapes to the documentary that was supposed to air as a backup, and they were still able to put it out there like a snuff film or underground to get it out to people. By the way, it shows you the great lengths that the deep state, the cabal, will go through to try to suppress this information from being put out there. That, you know, to try to manipulate people and not allow them to see this. This is why I think it's important to try to warn your loved ones, your family members, your aunties, your nieces, your grandparents, everyone that you can reach to, you know, get involved, learn about the independent media. If you can, subscribe to Epoch Times. You know, subscribe to band.video, BitChute. If you are still going to watch the mainstream liberal control, progressive control media, I think it's important to have a fair, balanced perspective. I do from time to time, even local media, because I want to see what they're up to. Now, I like the positive things they report on, but however, they don't report on information like this, like what I'm going over. Sometimes when egregious acts have taken place, they'll shut it down. Now, I have saw some of the local private investigators. I like the stories that they've done, specifically, for example, from WXYZ Channel 7. You know, and I do plan on hopefully reaching out to one of them in particular. There's another, some other journalists, local journalists. I like some of the reports that they've done. You know, some eye openers, by the way. But it's not as often that they do discuss this type of information. I did mention I saw CBS has been reporting on the Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein. Continue to follow that, by the way. I see Denise Wilkins says, I remember that. Interesting. Well, thank you for confirming. I'm not sure what is it specifically that you remember, Denise, if you don't mind to elaborate in case you're still watching. If you're familiar, you know, with this story that I'm going over, let me know. And others out there that are watching, that are tuning in, that this information is real and took place. I haven't covered like topics like this in a while, but I have in the past. If you scroll back to earlier YouTube videos I've done actually many times. It's just been a while that I've talked about this type of information. Galactic Soul says, timing is everything. I just bought a 5 terabyte drive. I'm prepared. So you're on time. Okay, great. Galactic Soul, I understand. Yes, there's a lot of egregious things that have taken place, but there's a plethora you're going to find in research when you look up the names. So to continue to go over there's one particular story where there's a relation. I posted some of the names. I'm going to post again some of the other names I had. You guys want to look up. By the way, okay. Now, Paul Benazzi, by the way, won his lawsuit years ago. In case you are not familiar, there was a lawyer that Ted Gunderson had approached at one time. Originally, his name was John D. Camp. I think I heard he passed away some time ago. Rest in peace, too, if that is true. I think so. I'm not sure exactly, but he did a lot of work. He even wrote a book called The Franklin Cover-Up. Now, just to give you guys a heads up, you can still purchase the book from Amazon.com. You can also get the book off of eBay. By the way, I just discovered, just to confirm for you guys, and maybe look up online. I think one of them has a website, by the way, and I'll show you guys. I'll scroll the camera around, but as you can see, this is the book. This is from Amazon. The Franklin Cover-Ups at Child Abuse, Satanism, and Murder in Nebraska. This came out some years ago. By the way, this is what the cover looks like. This talks about the shutdown of Omaha, Nebraska's Franklin Community Federal Credit Union, raided by federal agencies in November 1988, sent shockwaves all the way to Washington, D.C. 40 million was missing. The credit union's manager, Republican Party activist Lawrence E. Larry King Jr., behind whose rise to fame and riches stood powerful figures in Nebraska politics and business and in the nation's capital. In the face of opposition from local and state law enforcement, from the FBI, and from the powerful Omaha World Herald newspaper, a special Franklin committee of the Nebraska legislature launched its own probe. What looked like a financial swindle soon exploded into a hideous tale of drugs, Iran-Contra, money laundering, a nationwide child abuse ring, and ritual murder. It says 19 months later, the legislative committee chief investigator died suddenly and violently, like more than a dozen other people linked to the Franklin case. Author John D. Camp knows the Franklin scandal from the inside. In 1990, his DeCamp memo first publicly named the alleged high-ranking abusers. Today, he is an attorney for 2 of the abuse victims. Using documentation never before made public, DeCamp lays bare not only the crimes, but the cover-up, a textbook case of how dangerous the corruption of institutions of government and the press can be. In its sweep and in what it portends in the nation, the Franklin cover-up followed the ugly precedent of the Warren Commission. Hopefully you guys were able to see that. Showing you my computer screen I was reading from. I left up bookmarked, by the way. This happened some years ago, just so you know, to provide evidence, by the way. In case you're not familiar with that story, you want to look him up. There was also an investigative journalist that also wrote a book as well. I'm going to see if I can find, if I pulled that up. By the way, you see the Frank. Yep, I think found it. Okay, this investigative journalist, his name was Nick Bryan. By the way, see if I can show you. It says a chilling expose of corporate corruption and government cover-ups. This is his book right here. I guess you can still purchase it, the paperback, on Amazon.com. Says a story of power brokers, child abuse, and betrayal. Nick Bryan. states a chilling expose of corporate corruption and government cover-ups. This accounts of a nationwide child trafficking and pedophilia ring in the United States tells a sordid tale of corruption in high places. The scandal originally surfaced during an investigation into Omaha, Nebraska's failed Franklin Credit Union that went beyond the Midwest, ultimately to Washington, D.C., implicating businessmen, senators, major media corporations, the CIA, and even the vulnerable Boys Town organization. This extensively researched report includes firsthand interviews with key witnesses and explores a controversy that has received scant media attention, by the way. See, yeah, isn't that similar to what's going on today? You see the comparison, by the way. Gotta get some more light in here, guys. Let me see here. Maybe this will help out. Let's see. Okay, had to get some more light in here. That's what I got, guys, just to let you know. You guys can't see. It's bright. Okay. Galactic Soul says, absolutely. Okay, thank you for confirming. Now, back going over, I posted in the chat, by the way, if you're wondering, these are the names, important names to please go on YouTube and research. Look up. There was still information on Paul Benassi some years ago. He won his lawsuit, but he was utilized by this cabal network to also kidnap some of the boys. And then they turn around, they were able to use him as to nab some of the bigger guys, by the way, that were involved in this big ring, by the way. But he was obviously blackmailed. They say that sometimes when people are subjected to situations like this, they develop what's called a Stockholm syndrome or whatever. But he, I guess, going through this trauma, he was able to give descriptions once he got in touch with the right people that were able to investigate this, that was able to describe people real high up in government, and he had like a photographic memory. So he was able to describe the places that he had been to very descriptively. By the way, just to give you a background behind the story, but it's important you guys, do your research, look up who he was, by the way. And the lawyer, John D. Kent, played a critical role at the time, by the way. And you can find this out when you research this information. And the reason I'm going over this is these are things that have already occurred, very similar. So when people say that Pizzagate isn't true, the Pizzagate didn't happen, that's not real, no, that's false. Pizzagate, it was based off of NYPD detectives found information on Anthony Weiner's laptop. Now, he was, at the time, I don't remember too much about Anthony Weiner. He was like a politician, and he got in trouble for sexting a girl on Twitter or whatever, showing his private part or something, and it blew up. So when he got in trouble with the law and they seized information he had, just to give you guys a brief background, the law enforcement detectives discovered that he had information pertaining to a child sex trafficking ring that went worldwide, that went all the way, not only from New York to California, but went to Washington, D.C. And then that's where you get all the way to England, because this was tied in with Epstein. And the detectives were upheld by what they saw. They also had got access to, I heard, a film on the deep web that had showed Hillary Clinton and her personal aide, Huma Abedin, allegedly. I have not seen the film, but this is from some other people. Even a guy that was involved with the dinar information named Tank did a video about where they said she was seeing Hillary Clinton skinning this young girl's face, and it made, I heard, allegedly some of the NYPD detectives throw up vomit and spit by what they saw, that it was so horrific and gross. And this happened. And when you connect the dots to Marina Abramovic, Jay-Z, and others, it's not a coincidence. They have a website that was sent to me by someone. I was shocked, that shows like a whole list of all these high net worth people, or people that are very rich or wealthy, that were tied in with Epstein. Now, here, many years ago, people, of course, try to tie Trump in because of the photos and stuff. But I hear that Trump actually kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago in 2008 when he found out. And there was also a prosecutor in New York who helped suppress the investigation why Epstein got off the original go around before they rearrested him like a couple years ago, before the whole alleged suicide thing or whatever that took place. So this is going on where you have judges, prosecutors, people. This is who is referred to as the deep state, who within key positions of government, who are withholding investigations that this did take place. And the NYPD detectives, I heard they were supposed to release a press conference. This was during Obama's administration. But however, the Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, at the time, she had threatened the NYPD detectives that she was going to release information, I heard allegedly, about what happened with Chris Gardner, which was sad, the guy that was choked to death for selling cigarettes or whatever. So they didn't go about with the press conference or whatever. This is like a way to try to blackmail them, to basically keep them from shutting up, to keep them hushing their mouth. And this is to prove that blackmail is real. And this does go on. But there's been many whistleblowers, and this information still got out, still got leaked, I heard. And there's information is tied in even with the murder of Seth Rich from the DNC, the Democratic National Convention, where even Donna Brazile got scared. She came out with a book or some information, and they were, blasting her. There was a point in the media when some of the information was starting to come out about what happened. So the deep state doubled down or whatnot. That's why I don't think it's a coincidence that you saw Donna Brazile jump over to Fox or whatever, because it got really deep. And even Debbie Wasserman Schultz, in that situation, this was separate. What happened with the DNC leaker? They believed Seth Rich was leaking information to WikiLeaks, allegedly to Julian Assange. When I heard Julian Assange come out after Seth Rich had died, by the way, they believed that he was the guy, but he worked for the DNC. I heard he was allegedly a Bernie supporter, by the way, allegedly. I don't know how true, and that he was like that. He worked on their computer systems, but he was murdered, and there was like a cover up even with that. And the DC police, I heard, had got a hold of the laptop, and Debbie Wasserman Schultz had went to the DC police and was threatening the police chief. I saw on video or whatever. I guess I thought it was the laptop related to Anthony Weiner, but I guess that was separate, dealing with the Seth Rich DNC situation, as I was connecting the dots myself from studying and following the independent media. So I saw the DC police chief, I believe at the time, was doing where she was in an interview, and she was basically speaking in a way saying she was connected to these really powerful people and that she could make things happen if they didn't turn the laptop back over. So this stuff is like literally on the equivalent of a movie, folks. But I'm here to tell you this stuff is very real. These people are evil, very wicked, the cabal. And there is a book I'm going to show you guys, by the way, and I've shown it before. This book is called Bloodlines of the Illuminati by Fritz Springmeier. This is a must-have in your collection. You want to get this. This helps complement the documentaries that I went over earlier, that this video's in relation to, and some of the information that even help you understand how they use their trust, their foundations, business organizations to shield some of this activity. Like when Jerry Sandusky was taken down, his front organization was called the Second Mile or whatever, like a foundation or whatever, was used as a cover. But he had so many accusers there. Remember, he was tied in with Penn State, and there was a cover up with that, by the way. You also want to get this book called Codex Magica by Tex Mars, by the way. And this is what he looks like right here. This is the ISBN number. You see, I still had a receipt on here from Borders Books many years ago, which is now closed down, by the way. But this book shows you, gives you an inside look in terms of the signs and symbols dealing with this different secret societies that people belong to, have allegiance with, by the way, just to give you a heads up. Once again, so this book, Codex Magica by Tex Mars, will give you an inside look on people who belong to this organization. right here. And this is a good book as well by William Shinoblin, Inside Look. It's how I was able to connect the pieces many years ago with different organizations and see how people were able to infiltrate and act as spies. Not saying everybody that belongs to this organization is one, but he talked about Albert Pike, one of the founders of the Ku Klux Klan, are connected with, as well as Prince Hall, Freemasonry. I learned about in here, by the way. And he mentioned he was a Mormon at the time, which was started by Joseph Smith, who was alleged to be a Freemason. By the way, the original book I had William Shinoblin autographed for me. I never got the original one back, but I repurchased this book, by the way, because I wanted it back so bad. Some lady sent a thank you letter too. I bought it off of eBay, by the way. So kudos to whoever that was. They sent a letter like along with the book. It's rare for some sellers to do that, merchants to send it was like a personal written letter that said thank you for when I made my purchase, by the way. So this is the second book that I had. The original book I never got back, and that's a whole nother story, by the way. But this is why these books will help give you the information. But this book in particular shows different even famous people with the signs and symbols. I don't want to spoil it for you guys, why this is a must-have. Just like this book, by the way. This is another book you want to have, called by Jesse Ventura. He was a former governor before, I believe, of Minnesota. Some of y'all know he had a show on True TV. He also was part of the World Wrestling Federation some years ago before the name changed and everything. He was famous with that. He was also former Navy SEAL, by the way. And this is a good book to get as well, called 63 Documents the Government Doesn't Want You to Read, to show evidence where people that once again try to accuse this information of being conspiracy theory, when there is evidence. There's been stuff that's been declassified that's come out, and that's what he talks about. Once again, another guy who talks about some of the information that I've gone over, the documentaries and names, is this guy, David Icke, by the way. And this is a powerful book. As you can tell, this is really worn. This is called Children of the Matrix, by the way. And this is how I knew about some of this information that I'm going over in the video some years ago, just to share with you guys, to let you guys know the validity behind this when you connect the pieces together. So once again, going over when people said that Pizzagate wasn't real, just to go over a recap. Huma Abedin was like a personal aide that was also friends with Hillary Clinton. She worked her campaign at the time. So prior to that, when the NYPD police and the detectives made an arrest, they seized Anthony Weiner's laptop, which had evidence, I guess, to all this information pertaining to how this sex trafficking ring led from New York City to Washington, D.C., was connected all the way to Hollywood, that went even to England. And I guess that's where you get Prince Andrew involved in this as well. And it's not a coincidence when you find out, you look into the Epstein, these connections. But when they try to tie Trump in, by the way, he kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago back in 2008. Epstein was trying to use Mar-a-Lago as a front because Trump was a high-profile person. I hear Trump is not perfect, but he was into grown women. He wasn't into children. That's why he said some years ago, he said that Epstein liked really young girls. And I hear that actually Trump worked as an undercover by the way. I just heard more recently that he was acting undercover too, that Epstein did. Remember, he did get in trouble many years ago, but there was an attorney general in New York City, or some people that shut down his investigation at that time because he was connected to some very high people, but it resurfaced again. So similar to R. Kelly, that's why Epstein got off the first time. But even actually around the same time period as R. Kelly's first trial, by the way, which is interesting, when R. Kelly, I guess around the time he was still in trouble or had just gotten off, here around 2008 was the date. They said Trump had kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago when he found out or whatever. And that was more information. So that's why I'm going over this information. It gets really deep, really in depth. But a lot of the information that pertains to the laptop they found from Anthony Weiner. By the way, there was where the evidence was, and NYPD detectives. By the way, we're going to do a press conference once again, and they decided not to because they were threatened at the time by the Attorney General, which was a form of blackmail, to show you guys how they use that as a strategy. By the way, so in case you guys are joining, I'm your host, John Dorsey at Dorsey's Resource. Don't forget to thumbs up, hit the like button. You can subscribe to me at Dorsey's Resource. I'm on Twitter at Dorsey's Resource. I'm on Facebook at Dorsey's Resource. And obviously, I'm on YouTube. I'm also on Minds.com. Down the road, I am going to work on getting on other web hosting platforms, which I recommend you guys do the same. So we are not just solely on YouTube, but YouTube generally, because they have a monopoly, and but you never know sometimes when certain content creators reach a certain plateau or get to a certain level, they just yank their whole channels just like that. So I think you should have a backup just in case things go in that direction. By the way, I see Jada Lynn in the chat says, hi, Dorsey, love and peace. Greetings to you, Jada. Appreciate you. Thank you for joining, by the way. So before I'm about to wrap things up, this was also Q&A. So guys, if you had any questions or concerns, feel free to jump in. Let me know if you had any questions or concerns. This is the last call, by the way. Don't hesitate as I'm wrapping things up, by the way. I went over several documentaries and going over some of the names. I went over John D. Camp. He was the lawyer. Now, in the Franklin cover-up, you also want to look up who Michael Aquino was. The actor Oliver Stone's son, I can't remember his name, his son's name, interviewed Michael Aquino. I won't spoil it for you guys, but you want to look up, he's still around, still alive, by the way. So you want to look up, when you research and find information, this is why I went over the names, to show you it's things that's already occurred, that's already happened in the past, that have already taken place, by the way. So I went over Ted Gunderson. You want to make sure, that's why I put an asterisk. I put like a star by his name, because I think he played a critical role. For those who are maybe on the fence about, is this information true? Say, Dorsey, that's conspiracy theories, is valid. Is there any truth to this? Yes, I'm here to tell you this is true. This is factual. You have to watch these documentaries. You can't be a weekend warrior. I just showed some books as well. You have to look at this information in depth. I do give a disclaimer. I encourage everyone to, do their own research and homework. I show this information pursuant to Fair Use Act, which check the description box. By the way, this information is still available. You can still research a lot of these names. You can still look up for free on YouTube. It's still public information. Even on Amazon and eBay, there's even books that you can purchase, even from some of the names that I went over and mentioned. By the way, once again, there was another documentary I didn't go over as much, but you want to make sure you download this information. It was called Conspiracy of Silence, by the way, and it was banned from airing on the Discovery Channel some years ago. Look that up, by the way. It's an eye-opener, a telltale sign with some things that have resurfaced. This is why I felt, not only starting off talking about what happened with Millie Weaver, you don't want to forget, forget to check out Shadowgate, by the way. Because of what happened with her, by the way, I think Shadowgate is a very telltale eye-opener. By the way, I'm pretty sure a lot of people you've seen, many of you guys who do follow the independent media are already getting the word, hearing about it. But I think that is one of the most powerful documentaries that I've watched so far. I'm at 29 minutes in, by the way, so I have to finish watching it, the rest of it, when I get a chance, because I watch things in increments, by the way, and I repeated some of the information. I went back and it shows actual evidence behind the surveillance, and also the Epoch Times, which has commercials, like advertisement commercials on YouTube. A friend of mine that I know actually told me he was aware of Epoch Times once again and said he's going to get a subscription through them. So they can back me up. I did look up some of their information and saw online that they had a map laid out where they take you through a timeline of how this a lot of this came about and how it was illegal with these people that were involved with these egregious acts that Trump was really surveilled and spied on. So NPR is giving false information. They're fabricating. Oh, I just thought about this. Interesting. Before I get ready to shut this video down, there's another documentary. Well, actually, these are more so mainstream movies. Sometimes I mix in. They're dystopian movies. There's a couple, as I've always recommended in the past. Check out Hunger Games and Divergent. But there's one in particular I think is really powerful that complements Shadowgate. It was came out. There was a star from YouTube, a content creator who made it like really big, really large in the YouTube world. And his name was Logan Paul. He starred in this movie as well as the Stacey Dash, the actor, who I hear is cousins with Damon Dash, allegedly. I've heard that they both starred in this movie. It was called The Thinning. You want to watch? Check out The Thinning Part 1 and 2. If you can look up The Thinning, please check that out. I would like to see a Part 3. Definitely, it is. It has you like on the edge, especially when I watched Part 2 and going towards the end. It's got a twist. These are like, it was an excellent dystopian movie, one of the greatest movies I've saw, like as far as on maybe lower budget production, by the way, but very professionally done, in my opinion. It's on the level up there with Divergent and Hunger Games. But check out, it's called The Thinning. It was like a YouTube exclusive movie at one time. Then my friend told me his brother saw it on Hulu or Netflix some years ago. But if you can still find it, you might be able to find the torrent or the download. By the way, check out. It's called The Thinning, Part 1 and 2. I think it will help complement, even though it's a fictional movie. It's based in what they call, you have, just like books, you have fiction and nonfiction. So what I speak about is generally it's nonfiction, but this movie is a fictional movie. But however, they give clues, innuendos. Like if you go back to many years ago, for example, Nick Rockefeller, when he befriended Aaron Russo, who was running for governor of Nevada at one time, who put out a documentary some years ago called Freedom to Fascism. Nick Rockefeller basically admitted to Aaron Russo, we put things in front of people's face. We run things in the media, the news. They put things in movies. Even Pastor Lindsey Williams, the whistleblower that lived with the elite of the world, even stated this, how the elites put things, messages in movies, by the way. And there was a movie that even Pastor Lindsey Williams had recommended that I found out which movie he was talking about. I did my research, and it came out back in 2009. My friend's wife wanted to see it. When I told them about it, I told her about it. She thought it was interesting. When I told them the suspense in it was very intriguing, but it shined light on, for me personally, on like this organization and beyond many other types. And the guy said in the movie, he explained it everywhere. It was called The International, by the way. It was a mainstream media movie, but he said, Pastor Lindsey Williams said this movie, the elite specifically told him at the time that what happened in that movie was going to happen in a particular year. Now, sometimes when things don't happen, they change their timeline, by the way. So I don't know if he was referring, I think he was referring to last year. However, but he said what happened in that movie was going to happen last year at the time, but they may have extended their timeline. It was called The International. I found out it came out around 2009. You can check out the trailer. This is a mainstream movie, fictional based, but very good movie to check out, by the way. And I figured out, because Pastor Lindsey Williams, he didn't come out directly and say, he kind of gave clues where you had to look it up. So I had to research it just to give you guys a heads up. I had to do my research and kind of figure out, and I was able to figure out what the movie was called. And I was able to find it because a portion of the documentary that I watched that he did, he described it, but it took me a little while to figure out the movie. And it was called, I believe, The International. and it was released in 2009. They do have a trailer you can watch on YouTube, and that was a eye opener, especially going towards the end with the guy that he worked as a detective, or like for one of those agencies like MI5 or MI6 or whatever, like one of those spy groups dealt with like espionage and things. And the guy, one of his bosses was a supervisor. He asked him, he said, why are you not basically going this particular direction? I don't want to spoil it for you guys, but I'm just rephrasing, so don't take my word for it. That he said, you're basically an immigrant. You came from another country. You know, he expected him to be more of a fighter when it came to exposing what it was. I may have to watch it again. And the guy explained to him, the detective, his boss, explained, he said that they're everywhere. They're all around you. He went into the details, and I was like, whoa, you know, when he said that. But check it out. It's called The International. There's a movie called The Thinning. And I think The Thinning will complement the documentary that what's her name? Millie Weaver did, excuse me, called Shadowgate. The Thinning will complement that, by the way. So the last two movies I mentioned are more fictional based. The other movies I went over are documentaries, by the way, but it'll help you connect the pieces, by the way. And that's a plethora, ton of information I've gone over so far. So I want to thank you guys, everyone, for joining me. By the way, Chef Mags in the chat, hands clap, appreciate you. Don't forget to thumbs up. Share this video if you can. Also bookmark the links. Find the software to download the information I went over, you know, just to give you guys a heads up ahead of time. There's a lot of information to start with that will point you in the right direction, and it'll help you understand what is happening today. Some of these things happened many years ago, by the way. Sometimes history can repeat itself. I had a history teacher that said those who do not learn from their history are condemned to repeat it in the past. So I want to thank you guys for joining me so far. I'm your host, John Dorsey. You can follow me at Dorsey's Resource. Obviously, I'm on YouTube. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram as well at Dorsey's Resource _2019. But that's my more laid back, my more liberal side, my more conservative side, where I lean more to the right. Even though I'm not a registered voter, I haven't been a registered voter since 2004, by the way. I'm apolitical, but I give my opinion. I do swing more to the right, just to give you guys a heads up. But I do very in-depth research, critical thinking. You can follow me at Twitter. That's my more conservative side, at Dorsey's Resource. I'm on Twitter, at Dorsey's Resource, by the way. And once again, I want to thank you guys for joining me and taking the time out of your busy schedule, your day, to check this video out going live. But I want to give my feelings about Millie Weaver. Kudos to the people out there that did raise money for her, and the work that she's doing and has put out, as well as many others out there that have even risked their lives. Special shout out to Eric Snowden, Julian Assange, all of those out there on the front lines. I do appreciate you. We appreciate you. So until next time, guys, real legends never die. You all stay blessed, stay safe. Adios, amigo. Arrivederci. Masalama. Shalom. Ashe. I'm out. Peace. Deuces.